Thursday's NBA, Chris Mannix from the Chris Mannix Show. Weekday afternoons, NBC Sports Radio, 24-hour podcast. Download the app and subscribe to the Mannix podcast. Chris, all right, man, last night, Cavs, Celtics, everybody made a big deal of it, and the the Cavs basically came out and took care of business. What was the message that the Cavs were sending last night? Because LeBron had said, don't ask me about a regular season game, and then up 20-plus last night, he's hanging out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Cavs were looking to send a message in a game like that because, frankly, I don't think the Cavs believe that when they're playing their best that they really have a peer in the Eastern Conference. I mean, I know it's been a tumultuous season for this team, and certainly the Eastern Conference at the top has gotten a lot better than it's been the last few years. But Cleveland's problems have always been internal. Can they, get their defense right? Can they continue to have a more imaginative offense than just isolation with LeBron or post-ups to Kevin Love? They know that if they figure their stuff out, nobody in the Eastern Conference is going to beat them 4 out of 7. I think last night was just a reminder of just how good the Cavs can be.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at that game, so many people were wondering if this was like a measuring stick. Did the Celtics take that as like, wow, we're further away than we thought? Was that a reality check for them?
I mean, look, I don't know exactly what Boston's internal expectations are. I mean, certainly every player, wakes up in the morning and says, I want to win a championship. But I think Boston, from a management perspective, is keenly aware that they have a long way to go. I mean, they're still an incredibly young team. They're rolling Jaylen Brown out there for significant minutes. Marcus Smart is still in the fledgling stages of his career. I mean, they're going to be built in the future over, maybe the number 1 overall pick or whatever they can get in trade for the number 1 overall pick. So they're very much a work in progress. Plus, we're talking about a team that, despite the fact that they've been kind of a Cinderella story the last couple of years, they've yet to get out of the first round. So why don't the Celtics, I think they know you got to crawl before you walk here. And, just getting to the conference finals and getting to this matchup with the Cavs, that would be a big accomplishment.
That's an interesting point about them not getting out of the first round. Chris Mannix with us here, NBC Sports Radio. You talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but last night might have been the most egregious effort of tanking by the Lakers of all the teams that tanked. It was almost as if the Spurs says, we're not going to let you do it. We refuse to let you lose this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, I if it was any other team, I would say it's just a coincidence, but I love that. I would wonder if Greg Popovich, who has been is a complete opponent of tanking in any possible way, would have found something to do with that. I mean, the Lakers and the Suns have been just embarrassments. I mean, they have been. It's really stunning that the NBA, which took this strong position against contending teams, resting stars, has completely turned a blind eye to what the Lakers and Suns are doing. I mean, it is as obvious can be that these teams are not just, not trying to win, but actively trying to lose. They've basically become the NBA's version of the Washington Generals out there, and it's really a black mark on the league. I know the league's got a board of governors meeting tomorrow in New York, and I'm sure resting players is going to come up, but I would really like to see the subject of tanking come up and be addressed in a substantive manner. Now, the reflexive response is, well, we tried to change the lottery a few years ago. It didn't work. What do you want us to do? How about you start fining these teams? In 2012, David Stern slapped the Spurs with a $250,000 fine for resting their players in that game against Miami. How about you start slapping the Suns and the Lakers with a $250,000 fine every time they sit healthy players and for regular season games? I bet owners, even deep-pocketed owners like the Buss family, I bet they'd flinch at having to pay that type of price.
Right, Chris, because, we talked about when the Sixers did it, they just didn't have very good players. Last night, the Lakers had a lead and were benching their starters in order to try to cough that lead up. Are they fining the guys who helped win that game last night? I mean, that was really embarrassing to watch.
Yeah, it's absurd. And the NBA seems to have no interest in protecting the fans that are going to these games, just the fans that are going to these high-profile matchups. Right. No interest in protecting the local television contracts, just the national ones. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, and the counter-argument I've heard is that, well, players, they'll start faking injuries. Well, if they start faking injuries, you send an independent doctor down there to check them out. And if anybody out there actually believes that a player who's basically being benched so a team can lose and eventually draft their replacement, if you think that player is going to lie for their team and fake an injury, you've been watching too many Bambi movies, that's for sure.
Chris Mannix also covers boxing at Yahoo. Kovalev Ward 3. Give us just a little insight on the magnitude of that match on June 17th.
Yeah, the second fight. It's a rematch.
Oh, two. My bad.
Fight last year. I like it. It's the only fight out there at the light heavyweight division that really matters. Adonis Stevenson has become a massive waste of time at 175 pounds, probably one of the more wasted careers that I've seen in a long time. Kovalev Ward was a good fight. It was a close fight. I thought Kovalev won the fight. I think a rematch is natural. I'm glad it finally came together. I mean, the acrimony between these two sides, it would be funny if it wasn't so boring. Just the fact that these promoters and these fighters don't seem to want to make a deal with each other. It's a little bit later on the calendar than I would have liked, but doing the fight in June, I think it's a good matchup, and it's a chance for both these fighters to really establish themselves as big-time stars.
Chris Mannix, everybody. Thanks, Chris.
My pleasure. Anytime.